Special shout out to Brad, at Charm City Credit. He definitely hooked my credit up. I'm almost at a 700. Definitely you want to go and utilize his services.
I met Brad at our first time homebuyer seminar. We made an appointment immediately. Within 3 months, he was able to get my scores from the low 500s to the high 700s. I was able to close on my home, and I went from having $600 in credit cards to over $20,000 in credit cards.
I'm a real estate investor in Baltimore, Maryland. I've done over 200 properties. And I'm here in Brad's office again, Brad Simon's office, because I need help with my credit again. So he always hooks me up, and I always get my score back up over 700 so I can continue to refinance my properties. I've been knowing Brad for years. He's taking care of all my clients so they're able to get the financing. And I'm messing with him because he's one of the only licensed credit restoration companies in the state of Maryland, and he's got a AAA rating with the Better Business Bureau. So you guys need to come see him. I'm telling you for a fact.
Wanted to highly recommend Brad and Charm City Credit Services. After working with Brad for a short amount of time, I went from a 510 to a 680. I'm definitely more educated on how to handle my credit. I appreciate everything Brad did, and I definitely would highly recommend him and Charm City Credit Services.
Brad Simons has been my credit coach. He has been wonderful from the beginning. He stays on me. He's telling me, listen, when he pulls a report, this is what you need to do. What I appreciate most is the education that I'm getting, because credit is very difficult to understand.
He has cleared so much stuff off of it that I was able to buy my first home and a car. So reach out to them, ask for Brad Simmons, and he will take care of you.
Hello, everybody. Stay tuned for our next episode of Real Estate Podcast. We have our great guest, Mr. Brad Simons from Charm City Credit Service. He's going to max your scores and max your life. Family, welcome to the latest edition of the Real Estate Podcast. I'm your co-host, Meldon Dickens, along with the real estate guru,
Al Davis.
And we have an exciting show for you here today. But first, I want to shout out the Ham Radio family. We have King Richard Good back there on technology, as well as my good brother, Young Greg, young entrepreneur, photographer extraordinaire. And please follow us on YouTube, the Real Estate Podcast, and subscribe. Also, check us out on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Real Estate _podcast. Check us out. We got a lot of content out there for you guys. We're doing a lot of great work in rehabs and real estate and wholesaling in Baltimore. So Al, it's been a minute, man. How you been?
I've been good.
Been good. So I want to let you introduce our guest, man. We got an exciting show for you guys today.
For sure. Well, first of all, I want to let everybody know that this episode of podcast and many other episodes are going to be brought to you by Charm City Credit Service. Maximize your scores and maximize your life. But I want to introduce someone today that means a lot to me. Very good friend of mine. I've been knowing him for years. And I credit a lot of my success to the fact that I was able to not only make money, but I was able to keep my credit scores adequate enough to get credit with various organizations. Like whether you want to buy a car, whether you want to refinance your house, whether you want to purchase a house, a credit score comes into play and your credit report comes into play. So I don't know anyone that's better over the last 8-9 years that I've been knowing Brad than his company, Charm City Credit Service. So I want to introduce my man, Brad Simon with Charm City Credit Service. Thanks for coming in today, Brad.
Of course.
I'm excited to have you here, man, because I don't know a lot about credit. All I know is I send everything to you, you fix it, and I go get a loan. So that's basically the extent of what I know about credit. So
that's all we need to know. We just send everything to Brad.
Exactly. Send everything to Brad. But
thanks a lot for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
No, it's a problem. I think this is going to be an informative session for the people that listen to our podcast. I think it's going to help a lot of people learn about credit. And then once you learn about credit and how it works, you better establish yourself, especially if you're a real estate investor, because we deal with mostly real estate people. And I think credit plays an important role as far as establishing credit and to leverage it to make money. So how do you feel, Brad, that someone in the real estate industry, what can they do to leverage their credit to help them make money? How can they use you or your services?
Well, you need a certain credit score to obtain financing for real estate. So if they're not there, we can certainly get them there.
How could you get it there? How does the process start? Say, because I speak with a lot of people to say, I got somebody that's gonna fix my credit, or I'm not able to get the loan. But in fact, I was talking to somebody the other day, the lender would not give them the loan because their credit score was like, I think 550 or something like that. So what's the process involved with getting them from where they are now to the point where they can say, thanks, I'm able to qualify for a loan to purchase the property or refinance my property?
Well, our goal is to get all of our clients' credit scores well into the 700s. We achieve this by doing two things. We get negative items removed from our clients' reports, and as their scores increase, we also help them to build credit. Most of them don't have any credit. So anything negative on someone's credit, we've had success with removing. Late payments, charge-offs, collections, judgments, tax liens, medical bills, repossessions, student loans, even delinquent child support.
Wow.
Yep, we get delinquent child support removed. And yes, that does show up on your credit. People are very shocked when I pull the report, I'm going over with them, and I say, yeah, wow, that shows up on there? Yes, child support does show up on your credit. So pay your child support.
Keep your
And
baby
it affects
mama
it negatively, right?
Absolutely.
Like it bring your score down.
Absolutely.
So how do you help them? I heard you say you help them build their credit. After you get their credit to a certain thing, you help them build it. How do you do that?
We've identified the creditors that help people that are trying to build their credit up. So we know where to go, when to go, how to go.
Okay.
We help them get credit, new trade lines.
Oh.
So we'll apply for credit for them. That'll
wow.
show up on their report. And then we train them on how to use their new credit appropriately. Most clients just don't know about credit. I know I didn't. Growing up, never taught about credit in school or anything until you only seem to learn about creddet when your credit's bad.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden,
you need it.
And all of a sudden, then you're real interested in how your credit works. So that's what we do.
So, go ahead, Mel. Let me ask one more question.
Sure.
I'm interested in knowing how did you learn about credit, and how did you get into the credit business?
Great question. A lot of my clients ask me that. My credit was jacked up.
What was your score?
586.
Okay.
Which is I've seen a lot worse, but it was bad. It was bad enough not to be able to get approved for anything. I need my parents to co-sign for my car. I could never get an apartment on my own, so I hired a company to help me, and I've been helping others ever since. I didn't think it was possible. I went to a company called Max Score Credit. I became good friends with the owner, Tim Craig. May he rest in peace. He passed away suddenly. Tim became a very good friend of mine, a very good mentor of mine, and he taught me about credit. He cleaned my credit up, and like I said, I've been helping others ever since.
I remember Tim. He was out on Wrightstown Road office, wasn't he?
Correct, right?
Yeah.
In Pikesville.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mel.
So Charm City Credit Service. A couple things. How long you been in business, and mostly, I guess, obviously, you mostly operate in Baltimore metro area. How long have you been in
Charm City Credit, we've been around going on 7 years.
Okay.
And we help people all over.
Okay.
All over.
Okay.
But mainly in the Maryland, DC, Virginia area.
Yeah. So when you think about it, like, because I know one of the things we talk about here, since we're talking about real estate, is doing sort of credit. People talk about business credit, right? And that's a kind of different kind of nuance. Because I know, like, some people, that's what they want to get into, right? So that maybe, doesn't tie their own personal credit up. I know initially when you start, you may have to be the personal guarantor, but as you build it, then I don't have to like have my credit, extended or overextended, or my utilization high because I have this car or these properties. They can now be in the business. And so, do you ever work with clients in that respect? In that regard?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
We help our clients with business credit often. Everybody, they all want to flip houses. It seems like that's the thing to do.
Yeah.
So they need the business credit. But like you said, in the beginning, they're going to leverage your personal credit. So your personal credit has to be there in the beginning to obtain personal credit. That's how I did it personally for my business.
Right.
Was I built up my personal credit, and then you're able to get lines of credit in the business name, as you referring to,
right.
Under your EIN number as opposed to your social.
Right.
So then you're not extending your personal credit.
Right. So, like, if you could, just a little bit, I don't want to give out trade secrets, but like, walk us through that process. Like, what does that look like? So I know you said initially 700 is where you're trying to get your folks to be. So obviously you work with someone, or maybe they come to you already with 700. Then how do you kind of work with them in that process if they are establishing an S corp or LLC to kind of build their own personal credit or business credit? I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Well, business credit is different than personal credit.
Right.
Personal credit scores could range from a 330 to an 830. Business credit, I believe, is from a 0 to 100. And then once they get their personal credit to where it needs to be, there's called net 30 accounts. They establish these credit cards. And with business credit, it's different than personal. Personal credit, when the due date comes, as long as you pay the bill before the due date, you're good.
Right.
With business credit, the faster you pay it, the better. So if you make a charge today, you pay it off tomorrow, that's going to help your credit score. A lot of people don't realize paying the debt right away for business
Is better.
Is better.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So basically, really, that sounds like, and that's the first time I heard that, so thanks for that tidbit.
Sure.
That tip. But it almost sounds like, to me, what I thought about when I first got American Express, right? Because American Express, the first credit card I had there, I had to pay in 30 days regardless. You couldn't finance whatever you paid, whatever you bought in that 30-day cycle, you had to pay off. Which in a way was good for me. It taught me a little discipline because I couldn't buy $2,000 worth of stuff if I wasn't at the end of the month wasn't gonna have $2K paid off.
Right.
And so, but that's what it almost kind of sounds like. Business credit is like, okay, you can buy it now, but you need to pay it off faster. That helps you. So that's kind of good discipline. Thanks for sharing that. I didn't know that.
Sure.
So in terms of I know I see a lot of some of these. There's actually a company that's doing like an MLM with credit. I can't think of the name, but I've been seeing folks on Instagram and different things, different platforms saying, "Hey, we can lower your credit. These are the companies that you can get a luxury car in and your credit name and all that stuff." Is some of that stuff seems to me like kind of a gimmick. Like I'd rather come down in your office and sit down with you and have my stuff on paper. Have you? So tell me about that in terms of what do you see in the trend as far as credit going on?
I see that people don't trust anyone who does credit repair. Unfortunately, it's an industry that just doesn't have much credibility, and I'm not sure because there's plenty of moral, ethical companies out there that are getting the job done. So people like to come into the office, which we prefer. Always like to meet people face to face, develop relationships, build a rapport, and I feel it's done better in person. So we have a nice office for them to come to, but we also do online meetings.
Okay.
Where if they're in their house, I share my computer screen with them so they can see everything, and they really like that as well. Transparency is huge for what I do. So the more people can see and understand what's going on, the better it is for everybody.
Yeah, and that's another reason I use Brad and I refer Brad because a lot of people come to me to say, I got somebody working on my credit or somebody that takes off my credit. But what I want to instill in people is that when you're talking to those type of people, you want to make sure that they're licensed in the state of Maryland. And they also, Brad is rated A+ with the Better Business Bureau. So whenever someone's coming to you and they want to repair your credit or fix your credit or do anything with your credit, you want to make sure those persons are licensed, and you want to check with the Better Business Bureau to make sure they have a good status with the Better Business Bureau as well. Am I right, Brad?
Yes, I mean a lot of companies out there, like I said, I've heard the horror stories over the last 10 years of being in the industry. So you want to make sure that the company's legit. Obviously, we don't take large upfront fees. A lot of companies do. We don't. It's illegal, and we are licensed. We're bonded. We're accredited with the Better Business Bureau. We have an A+ rating, some excellent reviews. So we make sure that everything is transparent and we deliver on what we say.
Right, and you're licensed as a credit service company in the state of Maryland, right?
Credit services business.
Credit
Yes.
service businesses. And also, it's something new with the student loans, because I know a lot of people have student loans. Isn't it
Correct.
something new that you can help them with as far as student loans?
Yeah, we're really excited about this. The student loan program that we've just rolled out has been pretty effective. Coming in October, student loans will be coming due. A lot of people have, pushed their student loans underneath the rug for the last few years.
Yeah.
But it's now time to get those student loans from underneath the rug because you got to deal with them. And there are programs out there for people that allows them to consolidate their loans, get a lower payment, based on their income and the number of people in their household. Some people qualify for $0 payments.
Whoa,
And
$0 payment.
$0 payments, and the term still goes on. So if it's a 20-year term and you're making $0 payments, it's still knocking time off the term.
Wow.
At the end of the term, whatever you owe is forgiven. So
Wow.
so it's a great program. It's really helping out a lot of people. So if anyone who needs help with student loans, that's something that we've just rolled out as well.
I hope everybody comprehend what you just said.
Well, if they
Student
didn't,
loan.
they can call and I can
Yeah.
I can say it again.
Right.
Nice and slowly for them to understand.
Yeah, I'm about to call you because I got finished that master's program and I'm in debt. Yeah, so kind of some of the like questions. Like for me, I think about how people are using credit differently, how it's evolving, and I don't know. And I don't want you to put anybody's sort of personal business out there, but like, do you have like what's like one big kind of success story that you have? I'm sure you have plenty over the years, but like somebody who came to you and probably had a unique situation. I don't know if it's the child support or just like medical bills, because sometimes people can get in trouble not because they're a bad person, or like I think about medical bills is a big one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody could get sick, maybe they don't have insurance, don't have enough insurance. All of a sudden I have this debt, and maybe I'm sick because I can't work, I'm disabled for a certain amount of time. So I don't know if you have a story, like a success story you want to share.
I mean, they're all success stories. There's really
There's
really not one that sticks out. I mean, actually, the one that does stick out was years and years ago. It was an 82-year-old man.
Wow.
One of my oldest clients. I saved him $280 a month. He was able to refinance his property, and he cried his eyes out. I mean, literally cried. He was so thankful and grateful that I was able to save him that money each month, and that's something that will always stick with me.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
always
but
good to hear
there's and that's why I got into this. I really enjoy helping people, and yeah, we've heard some serious. I had a lady in a couple months ago. And actually, I couldn't believe it was her because I heard it on the news. Her son was shot and killed. 18 years old, and he has debt, and she's incurred the debt. She co-signed for a bunch of things, so the struggles are real out there. And it's heartbreaking. It really is with some of the things that people are dealing with now.
And Mel brought up something earlier about medical bills. Isn't it something that I think is it something where that they can't report medical bills under a certain amount of money or something like that?
Yes, under $500, medical bills now are no longer being reported. And if you have medical bills on your credit and they are paid, they'll automatically get deleted. Because people think that paying collections, paying stuff automatically removes it from their credit. And that's not the case.
Oh, okay.
That's not the case. You'll have a collection for $500, you'll pay it. So now they'll update it. They'll say you have $0, but the collection still stays on there and still brings down your scores.
Oh, I didn't know
You gotta
that.
get it removed. Yeah.
I didn't know that either. But what I tell people, especially my mentor students, who we teach real estate, like as a mentor, is I'm basically breaking down. There's three things you're gonna need in this business. You're either gonna need a whole lot of money, like a stack of cash, or you're gonna need a partner with a stack of cash, or you're gonna need good credit. There's only three ways that you're really gonna make it in this business. So those are the three things. You're gonna need a stack of cash, a partner with a stack of cash, you're gonna need good credits. So if you don't have access to the first two, you definitely have access to the third by calling Brad, letting them work on your credit and get your credit straight. So that's the way I look at it.
Now I got a question. I know this may not, and I don't know if you ever had to advise your clients on this, but I've heard, and I didn't know this, but when I was coming up, a lot of people started filing bankruptcy, right? If they got into a lot of debt, they would file, Chapter 11 or Chapter 7. Folks would file, and you hear that a lot of rich people do it, right? They file and say, hey, I got all this enormous amount of debt, and I file to avoid maybe the debt, and I don't have to pay it. And then, for what I understand, after I don't know how many years it is, it kind of zeroes out, and you can kind of get credit established. I mean, would you advise folks to do that, or is it different circumstances? Have you ever experienced that, with Charm City?
Well, we try to stay away from bankruptcy, but we do have clients that come in where they're just far too gone for help. And the last thing we want to do is take on someone's file that we can't help.
Right.
So a lot of times, and obviously I'm not a bankruptcy attorney, but I can recognize when they're too far gone for help. And bankruptcy is the best option, and I do advise them. And we have bankruptcy attorneys that we work with over the years.
Oh, that's cool.
But if bankruptcy is the only option, then yeah, it does tie up your credit for 2 years. so you won't be able to buy a house. And of course, you want to avoid bankruptcy at all costs, but sometimes it's the only option.
Yeah. I know one of the things I'm most proud of as far as myself is during the crash 08, 09, I lost all my lines of credit. Like the bank closed my largest line of credit. So it was really a tough time for me, but I pride myself in, I still managed to still pay my bills and not file bankruptcy. And also I was able to come back because of what Brad did with my personal credit. It enabled me to go and establish credit to still continue paying my creditors without filing bankruptcy. So that helped me a lot.
Yeah. I think, we said a couple of things, that's key. I think sometimes even our parents maybe didn't know. I mean, our parents were old school, like, pay your bills, but didn't necessarily know how to leverage credit. I think about, you see a movie when somebody goes into the general store and they let them get their goods, and it's like, I know your mom, I know your dad, you pay me later. And that's kind of how it started, right? When you think about it. But now, I think people not understanding even to leverage it, to buy real estate, to establish a business, to, I don't know what you might want to do, but even I've seen people do it to leave like insurance and stuff like that, get big policies and stuff like that. So yeah, that to me, because I think those are the things when you're talking about generational wealth and blessing your family and leaving a legacy. You might not have enough money, but like if you got good credit, you can leverage that and say, hey, one of the things I've been thinking about is like, instead of trying to leave my kids all these houses or stuff, like, hey, maybe I have insurance and I'm just like, hey, I can get a big policy and just say, hey, if something happens to me, hey, you have $500,000 cash and you can do what you want, instead of having 2 houses that are old and they might be worth some money, but you got to figure out what to do. Like,
you got to deal with that.
Yeah. So I've been thinking, like, just trying to think through that, because a lot of times we think, hey, well, I got 5 houses. My son and my daughter don't have 5 houses, but it's like if they don't know it.
They may not want 5 houses,
and they can't manage it like me or you, right? And so, or if they don't get the best advice from a real estate agent or a broker, they don't get the top dollar for it and selling it or managing it. So sometimes maybe it's like, hey, you got cash, right? Money. You can say, all right, I want to invest, I want to travel, I want to whatever, I go to school or something.
Well, that's what we hear all the time. I mean, I never knew about credit. All I've done is paid cash for everything all my life. Well, that's obviously that's not good for a credit score.
Right.
Cash.
Right.
Not gonna
So
help.
you have to establish credit. You got to use it appropriately, which brings me to another point with credit cards. That's a huge thing. There's the misconceptions with credit cards when we keep balances.
Right.
Most clients think 30% is where they want to keep the credit card balances while they're trying to increase their scores.
That's not true.
The 30% doesn't hurt you or help you. So if
Okay.
you keep your credit cards around 30%, your scores will pretty much stay the same.
Wow.
Most of our clients are trying to get a real boost to the scores quickly, so less than 10% is where you want to keep the balances on your credit cards.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
I always read 30%. So if you owe $1,000 on your credit card, you should only spend up to $100.
Correct. If you're trying to get a quick boost to your credit score.
So that'll actually make your score go up.
Yes.
So if I got a credit card, say today after this, I go and look at my credit card and I owe $1,000. I should send them $900. If my credit limit is $1,000, send them $900 in my score. I'll see an impact on my score.
Absolutely.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Mr. Clean your credit. Mr. Clean your credit. Mr. Clean, 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 clean your credit. Charm City.
Hi, this is Mr. Clean Your Credit from Charm City Credit Service. My credit was jacked up and I couldn't get approved for anything. I hired a company to help me and I've been helping others ever since. Stop getting denied. Let's get you approved for that new car, home, or credit card for Christmas. Call me today, 410-690-4488. 410-690-4488. ccreditservice.com.
Mr. Clean, 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 clean your credit. Charm City. Call 410-690-4488 to clean your credit today. Charm City Credit Repair.
Hey, welcome back everybody to the Real Estate Podcast. Meldon, Dickens, your co-host.
Al Davis.
Al Davis is our host, real estate guru. And we got our great guest here today, principal for Charm City Credit Service, Mr. Brad Simons. And so, Brad, we've been having this good conversation about credit, about your business, man, and all the good work you're doing. And I like, kind of what you were talking about earlier, how you say, hey, man, I really like to help people. And you shared a couple of good stories, one about the 82-year-old man. The question I want to ask is, what is one of the areas that a lot of folks you come into get sort of sucked into that may want to tell them, or that we may want to, like, to our folks, that they may want to avoid? Like, is it credit cards per se? Like maybe retail credit cards, like a Macy's card? Is it the medical bills? What's that, like, one or two areas that, like, you feel like always stumps everybody that people sometimes don't realize is digging up really bad on their credit?
Well, that's a good point. The credit cards.
Retail credit cards?
Yeah, thanks. There's a big difference between the major credit cards and retail credit cards. Now, there's an ideal mix of credit that you want to have good credit scores. To have at least 2 major credit cards, 1 store card, and then 1 installment account. So that's a good point. But with the store cards, it's different than than the major credit cards. You don't need to use them. So if you get a retail card, it just sits on your credit with a 0 balance, and it helps your scores. It's the major credit cards that you want to use strategically that'll help drive your scores up.
So the major, some folks may not know, what are you, like, just for some folks who want to know, what are the major credit cards?
What are major credit cards? Like a major, like a Capital One,
Okay.
Discover,
Right,
Chase.
okay, yeah.
Chase, yeah, a major. Now people don't. I forgot what I was gonna say,
But like,
Lost my train of
what I tell a lot of people, like when I do larger purchases, I always try to use my credit card, right? And then instead of using my debit card, like you got debit cards, you got credit cards. I try not to use my debit card when I'm making larger purchases. I purchase on a credit card, and then when I do, I'll take my cash or my debit card, pay it on my credit card because it helps your credit. Am I right?
Yeah. Well, most of our clients aren't in a position yet to do, because what you're referring to, I think, is getting rewards off of your credit card.
getting my
So that's a
rewards,
good
yeah.
idea. If you have a credit card that gives you rewards, that's the best bet. You want to use your credit card,
As much as all.
get the rewards, and then just pay it off. But
Right.
most of our clients aren't in a position right now to be picky and choosy of what kind of credit cards they get. I mean, the goal is obviously to build them up to credit cards that offer rewards, but that's for people with good credit. So we start them off with the credit card that we feel they're going to get approved for. Well, a secure card, that's a good point as well. Secure card is different than a major credit card. Secure card is where you put the money up. So you go get a $300 secure card. They're going to take $300 from your bank account, give you a credit card that's worth $300, and then you use that just as you would a regular credit card. And then after using it appropriately for the next 6 to 8 months, they give you back the $300, and then it becomes a major credit card, and then you're off to the races.
So do you have any kind of education or curriculum that once you clean, like say if I came in and I was that 380 score guy, 420 score guy, and you was like, okay, I'm working with you and you got me straight, right? So now I'm on my way. Say I'm in the mid 6s and you're on my way. We're getting there, right? Is there like a certain education kind of piece that you do with folks to say, all right, this is where it is. We got you this 1 or 2 credit cards or whatever. This is how you need to. Do you guys do that too as well, or is it just more like cleaning it up?
No, we clean it up, and then, like I mentioned, we help them build new accounts. Getting the new stuff on there is just as important as getting the negative stuff off.
Right.
And then knowing how to use it appropriately. I mean, it happens all the time. We get clients' credit cards, and they don't follow our recommendations, and then their scores don't go up, and then they're upset with us because they just paid us to fix their credit, and their credit scores are where they were when they first started. Well, that's because they get mad at us. That's because you got a credit card and you listen to 30% of people's scores. It's a huge chunk. People don't realize credit cards are huge. 30%. And if you have 1 late payment, it'll drop your scores 100 points.
Whoa.
100 points, 1 late payment.
Whoa,
People don't realize credit cards are huge. That's why you got to have them to have good credit, and you have to use them appropriately.
Almost seems like, I want it, man. 1 late payment. Wow.
Yeah, 1 late payment.
Discipline is huge.
I'm terrible with paying on I just let them take it out, like they'll take it out your bank.
Yeah, a lot of people do the auto pay now.
That's what I was going to suggest. I mean, that was key component for me keeping up with my credit was online bill payment. I ask all my clients to do online bill payment, and I would say most of them, I know most of them don't. So that's another thing. We'll help you set up online bill payment. It's really simple. I mean, it's not, the people are intimidated, overwhelmed by it, and I was as well. I didn't do online bill payment forever.
Right.
When I finally did, I'm like, wow, what a difference this makes.
Yeah.
It really helps you keep up with your bills.
Right.
I'm gonna tell you something funny, man. I mean, my grandmother just passed. She was 94, but she didn't want to do that kind of stuff, man. She was old school, sit at the dining room table or the kitchen table, write her check. Like, 'cause that's what she did, her ledger. And she was, you know, and I think too, the digital disconnect, right? Because some people with technology, they're not comfortable. You hear the horror stories of somebody hacking into your account, somebody, you know, going into your account or something like that. Identity theft, right? So, you know, like I think that's what another thing that deters a lot of people away from automatic bill pay.
True.
This friend of mine was telling me, like, you should put everything on automatic bill pay. It's like, because I'll forget. Like, I have the money, but I'll just forget to pay because all of these little miscellaneous bills, right? And so, but then I feel like, how do you monitor like really what's coming out of your account? I give you, this happened to me, true story. I paid all my credit cards off. I was working to get them off. But there's some that have a fee, right? There's a fee. So you got to
One Bank, Premier Bank, all those.
So somebody like that had a fee. It's one of them. It sounds familiar. And it's like $6.75 fee, something ridiculous. And I got a late fee, or I got a late payment because they had this fee. I was like, I paid it off. I didn't have, so I'm like, I don't have to pay anything because I got a zero balance. But because of the fee, I got a late payment. So like that's something like you don't even like feel like sometimes it's, you know, if you don't know. You know, and it was like $6.50, which I know I had $6.50, but I didn't know that they were going to give me this bill because it's a bill just to have that card. So, or the annual fee one is another one.
Well, we try to stay away from those cards.
Yeah.
The annual fee cards.
The First Premiers, Credit One Banks. I mean, we try to stay away from the annual fees because there's more than just annual fees that we find out. So
Well, with that question. Should individuals, because a lot of people, I guess they try to do this, they think they can do this, but they try. So, should individuals try to remove the items from their credit report themselves, or should they turn it over to someone who's actually knowledgeable in that? Because a lot of people, I guess they think they know what they're doing because they heard it from someone else, and they'll do it. Can they make mistakes doing it themselves, or should they just rely on a professional such as yourself to try to do it for them?
Now, we always like to use the analogy, you can change your own oil in your car if you want.
Right.
You can be your own attorney if you want. And you can be your own credit repair person if you want. But it's a lot better to go to a professional. I mean, you need to know what to put in the letters. And if you send a letter out trying to get something removed and they come back with it's not being removed, but then you have no other repercussions. So we're able to identify and initiate new codes, dispute codes, which allows us to initiate new investigations round after round to try to get the stuff off.
Okay, see, I don't know anything about that, so I wouldn't even try to do that stuff myself.
I mean, it's a lot of work, it takes a lot of time. Again, you can do it yourself, but it makes more sense to hire a company that knows what they're doing. That's what I did.
Well, can you explain to us the Fair Debt Collection Practice Act? Because I heard about that, but I really don't know about it. Should everyone know about that?
Well, most of our clients should. The FDCPA is a law that governs collection agencies. So collection agencies have to abide by certain practices, and most of them do not. So if a collection company, we tell our clients all the time, Google FDCPA, be a little knowledgeable about it. When the next time they call, answer the phone, explain to them you're going to file a report with the FDCPA, and the calls usually we find that stop. I mean, there are people that sit home and make $2,500 a pop, and there are attorneys that specialize just in FDCPA violations. So it is a real thing, and you can get the calls to stop.
So that's the people that call you and be like, we're debt collection, whatever you say, we're a debt collection agency. They're not supposed to be doing that. That's basically what it is.
Well, they can, but there's practices and
limits to
it, and
it's a way they can't be
abusive, can't be harassed, and most of them are.
Give me my money.
So
sometimes they're rude, sometimes they can be kind of aggressive. So that's basically what it is. Like,
there's a fine line, and they need to walk, and they usually cross it.
Man, I'm learning a lot today, Brad.
Good.
Like stuff I didn't know. I mean, I guess it's a continuous process. I guess it's a continuous process working on your credit, because I guess life happens and things happen, right? So you should always be monitoring. Well, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. I'm thinking you should always be monitoring your credit.
Absolutely. You have a credit monitoring service, not Credit Karma. It should be something that you pay for. Credit Karma only gives you 2 bureaus. It's not the most accurate. You want to have a credit monitoring service that gives you all 3 bureaus, that notifies you of any changes, anybody trying to apply for credit in your name. I mean, it's a really good thing to have. So if you don't have a credit monitoring service, I suggest getting one. We use a company called Smart Credit. That's very good.
Okay, so your clients, you refer them to the credit monitoring service that you recommend, right?
Well, yeah, they have to. Yes, they have to enroll in a monitoring service. That's how we track the progress each month.
Okay.
Without affecting their scores. So it's a soft pull when we try to update the reports and figure out the results and the progress so far. So they have to maintain the monitoring service so we can do that.
Okay. Now, speaking of that, somebody called me. I guess a bank called me, tried to give me a line of credit or whatever, and they told me I said, look, I don't need no line of credit. And plus I don't want nobody to pull my credit. And he's like, well, it's a soft pull. Like it was an advantage of it or something. But I couldn't speak on it because I didn't know what a soft pull was.
There you go.
So I was like, well, look, I don't know what a soft pull is, and I don't want to apply for it. So is it a soft pull, hard pull? What's the difference between all that?
Soft pull is not considered an inquiry. It won't show up on your credit if someone trying to pull your credit. A hard pull is when you go apply for credit. So a card, a credit card, a mortgage, anytime you apply for credit, it's going to be a hard inquiry.
Okay.
A hard pull versus a soft pull.
So how can we be? Go ahead, one second. How can we be sure? Like the guy that was trying to give me a line of credit, he's like, it's a soft pull. But can he like not tell me the truth and say it's a soft pull to be a hard pull, or how can we confirm
It's illegal for someone to pull your credit without your consent.
Okay.
Yeah, so they have to notify you that your credit's being pulled. It's going to be a hard pull, or they can't just do it without your consent.
Right. So a soft pull, would that show up on your credit report and just say soft pull?
No, it won't show up at all. It's as if it was never pulled.
Okay. Go ahead, Mel. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about that because, you know how when say for instance, if you're searching for like a car or a house, right, and you get your credit pulled multiple times, but then you don't purchase anything, that's the issue. So how does that affect people?
Well, it's a good question. The credit bureaus identify when you're applying for the same type of credit, so they don't ding you each time for that. So if you go to apply for a car and your credit gets pulled 20 times in a 2-week period, they recognize that you're applying for a car, the same type of credit, so they don't ding you for every single pull. Same for a credit card, same for any kind of a house. If you're applying for a certain type of credit, the credit bureaus recognize it and they don't ding you for each pull.
Okay. See, I didn't know that either.
Within a 2-week period.
So the time period is 2 weeks?
Yes.
Okay, so if you apply for the same type of loan within the 2-week period, you don't get
Ding for each
negatively
pull.
affected.
Correct.
Okay, I didn't know that. Did you know that, Rich?
So 2 weeks, so basically, but it's got to be for that 2-week period.
Correct.
So if you're taking longer, you might want to
They
be
start
careful.
taking-
Yeah. Okay.
Well, so is it still 3 agencies, or is it more than 3 agencies that report credit, personal
There's
credit?
the 3 agencies.
It's still that 3
Equifax,
agencies?
Change, Union, Experian.
Okay.
And they're all individual of each other. Clients think that the 3 bureaus are just one big conglomeration. No, they're all individual of each other. They all work differently. That's why you have 3 different credit scores, because they all report differently. You'll notice some things are reported, some things aren't. Mistakes are made by one bureau, now in the other bureau. You'll see your name is spelled, your address wrong throughout your credit report, because they're individual of each other. They all work separately.
Yeah, one of the things I think is careful. When you people like change their name or change the spelling of their name. Those are real. Be careful of that. Because so like say if Al was short for Alexander, but you might have stuff in Al and then Alexander and then Alex, right? With the same social security number and the same address. That's a thing. Like that's really a thing, because somebody else could be Alexander Davis with a similar, you know what I mean? And then like I've seen like some stuff like that happen. So I just tell people be careful. Like my son is I don't, instead of calling him junior, I called him the second. I said, no, be second, because sometimes they drop the junior, and then if like his credit, you know what I mean? Like, so I was like, so now when he, stuff comes to the house, it's a little 2 next to it, right? So it's like, I don't know, it's just in my head, I always thought about, of course I didn't want him to think he was junior, he's like, that was in my little psychology, right? But yeah, I think sometimes like that, when you have the names, I'm sure you've probably had that kind of experience. The question I have, man, like when you're disputing stuff on somebody's report, like typically how long does it take? Like, say if I have a medical bill, I paid it, or I got a car, I was late a couple times, but it's paid off. Like, how long does it typically to remove those type of things when you're?
There's no way of knowing. That's the question we're always asked. How long? There's no guarantee that everything gets removed off your credit. So we'll go through the process, and you still have some things on there that you started off with. I mean, there are no guarantees in credit repair.
So then, so I guess the question I have is then, like, in my case and Al's case, we've been living a little while. So we've got we've got a lot of credit, right? I mean, we've done a lot of transactions. We bought housing, we bought cars, student loans for ourselves, our children, what have you, right? There's a lot of like history. And so some of the stuff that may be not so good, right, for whatever reason, but it's like no guarantee. So it's sort of like how, like it's almost like, I feel like sometimes it's like, man, am I rolling the dice here? Because you said you have the 3 different, major agencies, and they all act independently. And every time I pull my credit, the numbers are different. They're close, right, but they are different. None of the numbers come out the same. Exactly. Like you never get like a 600 across the board or a 700 across the board. It's like maybe 620, 610, or something like that.
You ever seen that? The same school in all 3?
It's rare, but I have.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess it's just basically you're trying as much as possible to discipline what you're spending. Is that what you're kind of coaching your people in, like keep removing all the bad stuff as much as you can?
Yeah, we definitely want to change old bad habits. But you will, if you follow recommendations, it's inevitable. You will have better credit than what you started with. But there's just no guarantee that everything gets removed off your credit. But you don't need everything off your credit to have excellent credit. I still had a couple things on my credit, and my scores are still 800.
Right.
So you don't need everything off your credit to have great credit.
Yeah.
But so can like say if you accidentally miss a date, and you may have had the money but didn't pay it on time, so it go on your credit report as a late payment, right? Can those come off or get corrected in any type of way? They can?
Anything negative on someone's credit, we've had success with removing.
Okay, well, hold on, I'm just getting ready to stump you. What if my credit card limit is $10,000 and I owe $10,000? How could that get corrected, other than me paying it down? Can that be corrected?
What do you mean be corrected?
Say if I owe $10,000,
right,
and my limit is $10,000, what's my best option? To call them and get a credit line increase, or just pay it down? I mean, what can I do in that situation?
Just pay it down. I mean,
you can try to get somebody don't have the money to pay it down. That's gonna think I'm gonna stick with the bad credit?
Yeah.
I'm just asking.
I mean, because I would think a credit limit increase would be good. If you couldn't pay the 10, you don't want to go to 15 or 20.
Usually, if you're maxed out on your credit card, they're not going to give you an increase.
Really? But I would think, and let me know if this logic makes sense. If you max out on your credit card, that means you're using the credit, so you would need more credit, right? That don't make sense.
You're showing them that you need the credit to live, and that's terrible.
Okay.
That's why people with credit cards that have 400 or 500 scores, because they're showing the bureaus and they need those credit cards to live, and that's the worst thing for your credit.
But that wouldn't help your debt ratio if you get an increase. But if you get an increase, that means you owe less on your credit card. Because I'm confused.
You don't owe less. Your utilization percentage will be less. So yeah, it would be. But like I said,
but who's going to give you more money if you're not paying? Like if you
might be paying on time, it's just you maxed out.
If you owe him $10,000, you're gonna come to him asking for more.
You ask me for 20, I'm like,
where's my 10?
You ain't pay me the 10.
But I'm not trying to confuse anybody. But if I got a $10,000 limit, but I only owe like $100 on it, why would I'm not using it? So why would they give me more money? So you saying they give me more money if I don't need it, but if I need it, they won't give me no more money?
Yeah,
right. That's pretty much how it works.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I know
the logic ain't hit me right. So
the best time to ask for a line increase is when your utilization is low.
Okay. Just trying to get a better understanding.
Yeah, I've been learning more about that utilization here lately, because I like I told you, when I had all those credit cards, I was paying them, but I was paying everything on time. But it was like, I said, my credit should be good. It's like, nah, utilization's high. Like,
maxed out.
More than half the cards are almost to the top of the balance, and so my utilization was high.
There's a lot of misconceptions about credit. People think that I'm paying it on time. I pay my payment every month. Why are my scores going up? Same for the car payment. I pay my car payment every month. Why am I? Because you're supposed to. You're supposed to pay your car payment. You're supposed to pay your minimum payment, your credit cards. They don't reward for doing what you're supposed to do. They reward for going above and beyond, having that credit card, having your balances low, having a bunch of credit that you're able to manage.
Thanks for saying that. Say that again, Brad.
Having a bunch of credit.
What they reward you for. Because they reward you for doing better than you're supposed to do.
Exactly.
So I think in our mind, we think, okay, like anytime I've gotten approved for my house, my car, I got approved, or they approved me for a credit card, you're happy, right? Or like a student loan, I'm trying to apply, you're happy because you got approved, right? And so you pay it on time, and you're thinking you're doing good, but you're not really. That's basically like bare minimum. They expect you to do that, right? So it's like, am I paying extra than the minimum payment? Am I doubling up on the payment?
Exactly.
Am I paying down on the interest or principal or whatever? Paying down on the principal, or paying some of the interest down. That's what, and I don't think that's what we teach in credit, because like people say, oh, I got the credit, I get good, they give me the credit, whether it's the car, the house, the credit card, the loan.
I make the payments.
Oh, I'm doing good. My credit should be. It's like, well, I only have a 550 or 600 score. It's like, well, I paid everything on time.
Right.
Yeah, but that's what they expect. So you got to go above, because if your utilization is high, what you're saying, like your debt to income ratio looks high. It's like, oh, he or she's a risk, right?
Keep your credit card balance high, your scores will not move.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, also clients pay off their cars, and they think, my score went down. Well, that's what happens. You pay off your car, your score's going to go down. That's a really good piece of credit. A car payment is, as I was mentioning before, the mixed credit. An installment account is a mortgage, a car payment, any fixed amount that you pay every month.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone pays their car off, now you just lost a really good piece of credit. Now you probably don't have an installment account now. So that's why your scores drop.
Wow.
That's
so should they go establish another installment payment?
I mean, it's a good idea.
It's almost but it almost seems like
a game.
Yeah, like I gotta have credit or gotta be in debt for you to think I'm a good risk, in a sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure it does. Yeah, and it's true. But you gotta have really low debt.
Yeah.
Low debt. Because I know in this business, with the real estate business, every time I buy a house, I pretty much max out my credit cards, go to Home Depot or whatever, and then when I sell a house and I get a check, I pay the credit cards back down. So my credit score is always, and yours probably will too if you're gonna be in this business to a certain point, your credit score is gonna always fluctuate. If you do it the way I do it, I use my credit cards a lot to buy the supplies instead of using cash. But I don't pay them off until I sell that particular property. So that's gonna show on my credit reports, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, is there some way, like in that case, the scenario he gave, and I don't know if, I know you said, would it be better if he had a business credit card and just used that, and that would affect his own personal score? Would that, if he could get it to that level, then this is the business credit card, say Sky Miles LLC, he gets a $10,000-$15,000 card limit in the business.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because then it's not affecting his personal credit. So if he needs to go get a car or something, like some life emergency happens and he's got to use his credit, it's not tied into that.
Exactly, he's not delinquent in his personal.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you can still use your business credit to get some of the same things you could get in your personal credit, right?
Sure.
You can still establish credit and get loans from the same type of people, right?
Yeah.
You get car loans in your business.
Just using it under your EIN number versus your social.
Okay.
So if you're delinquent on the business credit, it doesn't
affect your personal. So which one is best to have? If you're gonna get in the real estate business, which that's what we're here to teach, what do you think is best for a person to have? Work on their personal credit or establish the business credit and work on that and make that in good standing?
Well, as I mentioned before, most people getting into the business don't have good credit.
So you gotta have personal credit.
You gotta have personal credit.
You gotta
So when you go try to get business credit, they look at your personal credit. Is that what you said? I don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
9 times out of 10, yeah.
So you can't get business credit unless you got good personal. Okay.
Right. I guess you start we start in the case. If my business, Nor Investments, right, my LLC. If I'm gonna go, say I'm gonna buy a pickup truck, right, in my business name, and if it hasn't been established, they're gonna look at me first. If I got good credit, then they can use me as the personal guarantor. Yeah, they'll give it to me in the business name, but I'm backing that loan up based upon my score at 700 or whatever that is, right? Okay. So they're using me as the backup to that. Like I'm the personal guarantor. Like if all goes well, if no investments goes bankrupt, right? Meldon, Dickens is on the hook for that debt.
Okay, I got you.
It's almost like I'm co-signing for my business to get it. And so, but once you do it, I think, and you pay it off and do well, then eventually the next purchase or whatever, you should be able to start doing in your business credit.
Let me give you the difference between how important credit scores are. The difference between an 800 credit score and a 500 or 550 credit score. When you go into the dealership, and I've seen it, and you got an 812 credit score, and the guy's telling you, it's a Friday afternoon, he's like, here, take the car, just come back, give me a copy of your driver's license, just come back Monday sometime with the car, a brand new car, Benz, on the Benz dealership, as opposed to the 500's credit score, and the guy was like, well, give me a credit score and your insurance, and I'll drive you around the corner so you can see how I feel. So there's a big difference between having a good credit score and a not so good credit score. So believe me when I tell you. But Brad, what I'm trying to get at is it's very important to make sure you have a decent credit score and a good credit rating. And I think Brad is probably the best person I know that can help people get to that. Now, he can not only will he help you get there, but he'll show you what you need to do to keep it there. So I don't know, anybody that's interested in credit, want to get their credit straight, I strongly suggest you call Brad. And Brad, can you tell us where your offices are located and how we can reach you, whether it's phone, email, or your website? Give us your website as well.
Sure, you can reach me by all those methods. Our website is charmcitycredit.com, www.charmcitycredit.com. Our office number is 410-690-4488. My email is brad@charmcitycredit.com. Our office is in Hunt Valley, right next to right across the street from the Wegmans right there in Hunt Valley.
Oh yeah, no, that's
yeah, so you can come out and see us, call us, we'll get you taken care of.
Yeah, and if you forget all that, just call me. I got Brad on speed dial, so he's my main man. So I'm telling you for a fact, he's the reason I keep my credit in order so that I could apply for a loan if I wanted to. So that's something I recommend highly to anybody, especially if you're thinking about calling us for mentorship. I'm gonna make sure you touch bases with Brad in order to get your stuff in order, because if you want to build your rental portfolio, you're gonna have to be able to refinance your house. Even if you get a hard money loan to acquire it and renovate it, you're gonna have to put the renters in there and go back to a bank or a mortgage company and refinance it. The only way you're gonna be able to refinance it is if you have an adequate credit score that you can get approved for the refinance. So just take that in consideration. I'm not gonna tell you anything that I haven't already experienced, and I'm not gonna send you to nobody that I haven't already dealt with. So Brad's definitely my guy. You got
Charm City Credit Service. Max your
Credit.
scores, max your life. We appreciate you, Brad, for coming. And listen, as a matter of fact, we're gonna add that to our mentor program.
Okay.
So we're gonna be reaching out to you, Brad, partner with you. So folks come to us to get to mentorship, to learn about the real estate, learn about flipping, to learn about residual income, learn about rentals. We're gonna go see our brothers, our friends at Charm City Credit. Make sure your stuff is in line. It's important because sometimes we assume what the score is and we don't know. So I thank you for the tip for the credit monitoring piece, because you never know if something's out there that you don't know about. Sometimes we got student loans, whatever, something that we might have forgot about. So I appreciate that tip too. Charm City Credit Service, max your scores, max your life. Thank you, our first sponsor. We appreciate you, Brad, sponsoring the Real Estate Podcast.
It was a lot of fun.
So big shout outs to you. And I don't know if there's any final thing you want to say to the folks out there, your people that's tuning in, or the Charm City Credit, your team.
I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Hope someone besides you, Al, learned something.
I'm sure they will or have.
So, thanks again.
Yeah.
All right.
I definitely learned something. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Charm City Credit Service. We shout out the Ham Radio family, to King Richard Good, my man Greg in the technology holding us down. Please don't forget to follow us on YouTube, like and subscribe. YouTube, the Real Estate Podcast at YouTube. Also follow us on all social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, the Real Estate Podcast, on Instagram with the Real Estate _podcast. Please check us out. We got a lot of great things coming on board, and looking forward to you partnering with us. If you want to be mentored, we got a mentorship program. Al has like 20 years of experience. He taught me everything he knows. He's well experienced in teaching about real estate, all facets of real estate, whether it's wholesaling, turnkey properties, fix and flips, you name it. Anything you want to say, Al, before we get out of here?
No, you did a great job, Meldon. I thank everybody for tuning in. Don't forget, what we're noticing, a lot of people are looking at our shows, but they're not subscribing. So we're just trying to get more subscribers, because we feel as though we bring you guys a lot of information that you could use to get into the business and be successful. So don't forget, if you like and subscribe, if you go look at our show, just like and subscribe. And we appreciate everyone joining in. I want to thank Brad for coming through. You know I appreciate you, big brother. So we'll see you guys on the next show.
Hey, this is Brad with Charm City Credit Service. Just want to thank everybody for listening to the Real Estate Podcast.